Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. I had to do a little bit of it. I was like, Thursday here. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed we do. Amazon replacing 600,000 workers with robots. That seems like a big deal. Andrew Yang is going to join us to discuss that and also his new cellular phone effort. Very interesting project that he's working on. He's also going to weigh in on the big debate last night. Zoran, Curtis Lewa, and Andrew Cuomo taking the stage once again. We got some highlights, lowlights, whatever from that. Also, Zoran went on with the guys over at Flagrant. That was pretty interesting as well. We've got some new really dire information about the way that healthcare costs are going up. So we've been covering here that if you are on the Obamacare exchanges, obviously those subsidies have been really critical. They have not been extended. So that's been a dire situation. Now we're taking a look at the employer-backed healthcare plans as well. Those costs going up a lot too. So not good at all for a lot of people out there. Israel, a lot of updates, but in particular, there was a big vote in the Knesset to annex the West Bank. While J.D. Vance was there, he had something to say about that as well. So we'll dig into that. We have another boat that was blown up as we seem to be marching increasingly rapidly towards a regime change war in Venezuela. Sagar has some thoughts about the White House demolition / renovation.
Listen, Antifa, I'm ready. Draft me.
Antifa
all right?
Super Soldier.
Antifa Super Soldier. Get me a blowtorch. But for the record, for the United States Secret Service, this is a joke. It's a satire.
This is parody.
It is a parody and it is satire. But if somebody were to sneak me back onto the White House grounds and give me a blowtorch or be one of those tree hugger activists that could chain myself to the original East Wing, I would be ready to
apparently go. There's nothing left to change yourself to.
No, it's this weekend. The facade remains, all right? So we have a chance. By the way, this is, I will never be more NIMBY than I am today, but I'll outline it in the White House.
So everybody can look forward to that, and I am taking a look at the whole Graham Plattner tattoo Reddit gate situation. He got the tattoo covered up, everybody. We got an update there. In case you haven't seen enough of this man's shirtless body, we've got more of that for you today. So
I never wanted to know the nipple shape and size of a U.S. Senate candidate, and I remain that way.
Welcome to 2025.
That is 2025.
Things you never could have imagined are now on the table.
Yeah, it's dark out here. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get to AI, shall we? Let's go and put this up here on the screen. This is major news from the economy. We have Amazon now planning to replace more than 500,000 jobs with robots. And it sounds like it's out of a movie, except it's actually out of a press release. They say that the company has done more to shape the American workplace than Amazon. It is already, I think, the second largest employer in the entire United States. And they're now just openly saying they have built an army of robots, which they hope to replace more than 500,000 jobs with. And there's nothing really that you can do about it. There's no legislation. There's no politicians. Nobody even really particularly cares. Amazon Automation expects the company can avoid hiring more than 160,000 people in the United States it would otherwise need just by 2027. That would save 30 cents on each item that Amazon picks, packs, and delivers to customers, which at scale is multiples of billions. Executives told the Amazon board just last year robotic automation would allow the company to continue to avoid adding its U.S. workforce numbers, and they will translate to more than 600,000 people that they do not need to hire. Amazon right now remains not only the second largest employer, one of the largest seasonal employers in the United States. It's one of the easiest ways for lower income folks out there to be able to get some seasonal work. And many of them rely on it. Famously, there was a movie, was it Nomadland, if you remember, they showed this entire phenomenon. Now, I don't think it's a good phenomenon to even have seasonal worker, but it's better than nothing. And now they're saying even that itself is gone. So this is dark. It's very, very dark stuff in terms of, as usual, when they announce this stuff on press calls and then the stock goes up, that's when it gets really dystopian.
Yeah, because you're rewarded as a company. You're rewarded for replacing human workers. That is the reality. And so we've covered Amazon a lot over the years. A lot. And there's a reason for that. It's because, as Sagar just said, they are the second largest employer. And in a lot of ways, they have completely reshaped the labor market in the U.S. They have lowered the standards, both in terms of wages and safety, and specifically the warehouse and logistics industry. We've, of course, covered the abuses of their delivery drivers, the way that they operate is they drive their workers until they can no longer physically do the tasks.
Yeah.
They like to have a very high churn. Why? Because they don't want you to stick around and have to and want higher pay or elevate to higher levels of management. I got plenty of issues with Walmart as well, but actually one of the things they do is they try to recruit from their own sales associates and elevate them up the chain. Amazon is the exact opposite. They have very high churn, and it's by design. So what they're doing here is, rather than laying off a bunch of workers, they're just going to let that normal churn run its course and not rehire. So they'll be steadily shrinking and shrinking and shrinking their workforce. 600,000 jobs, guys, that is a lot. That is a large percentage of their workforce here in the US. And here's the other thing. Once they go down this path, they are trendsetters, not just their rivals in the space, but all sorts of companies, especially ones that work in any sort of warehousing and logistics, are going to be looking at this and learning and trying to copy whatever it is that Amazon is doing. This moment of AI job replacement, it is here. And it is shocking to me how few politicians talk about it. I heard Bernie start to talk about it, but there is so little discussion around this. And meanwhile, a handful of people hold all of our fates in their hands. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's stick actually with even within the AI labs themselves. Let's put this up here on the screen. So not only are robots coming for AI jobs, it now appears to be coming for the AI jobs themselves. So you can see Meta has cut some 600 jobs in the AI superintelligence division. The layoffs will, quote, affect legacy teams, but not the company's brand new lab unit. The jobs will affect the company's teams focused on artificial intelligence products, infrastructure, and long-term AI research. By reducing the size of our team, fewer conversations will be required to make a decision, and each person will have a more load-bearing and more scope and impact, Alexander Wang, Meta's chief AI officer, said. So most of the affected employees will have the opportunity to, quote, be redeployed at the company. But what I think it does demonstrate to all of you is that even within the AI builders themselves, they have to grapple with, they're betting on replacing everybody, but in the immediate term, there's no profit. I mean, I can't get away from ChatGPT. It's one of those where it's just so crazy when you consider the financials. And listen, yes, I understand scale, I understand exponential growth, etc., but
when you scale up a net loss, though, how does that work?
This is what I'm trying to say. So ChatGPT has a revenue of $13 billion. That's a lot of money. That's great, actually. Awesome job, especially for a company that just launched its flagship product in 2022. But they have $1 trillion in outlays over the next decade. Now, those $1 trillion in outlays are not traditional cash finance deals. We talked about this with David Dayen. They're either called round tripping or vendor finance. I prefer vendor finance because it's a long-standing term that I think a lot of people can relate to, especially with the dot-com bubble. And it effectively relates to they're like, hey, we're going to buy X amount of chips from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is like, okay, and that's why we'll either grant you stock or you get some portion of our company. And then the two stocks simultaneously go up at the exact same time. But the problem with that is that the future revenue that's booked for NVIDIA is based on a promise from ChatGPT, but no money has actually exchanged hands. But it's just based on the craze and on the expectation itself of value that both continue to rise. So there's no money that actually happened, but hundreds of billions of dollars in value have been created. This is not just NVIDIA. This is every major chip manufacturer in the world. OpenAI has done 5 or 6 different of these types of deals, adding several I think almost $1 trillion in market cap to many of these different companies, again, off of the $13 billion valuation. The problem with that is that if the growth stops even a little bit and you have a 50% cut down, then that's the entire S&P 500. 80% of the stocks gains in 2025 so far are from AI stocks. 40% come from this expected value data center construction. So again, think about the housing, how much it was part of the GDP back in 2006 and 2007. Home building alone was like a huge portion. Well, when the Great Recession hit and people stopped building homes, boom, massive hit, not only to the housing stock, but also construction, labor, materials, and there were all kinds of, Nevada, remember, had a horrible crisis in terms of housing and a shortage that took almost a decade to recover from. That's the stuff that I worry about the most. So we have the job angle. you have the fact that the profit's not there. That's why Meta is cutting some of these jobs. And then you have basically Sam Altman, who is like this master deal maker. The Wall Street Journal now officially describes him as too big to fail, meaning if this comes down, we have to bail out. If we don't bail out, the entire economy will go down. We don't have a choice.
And
so we can see it all.
Our eggs in this basket,
literally all of our eggs in the basket. And what concerns me is it's kind of like housing. Nobody in Washington ever made a decision that we're going all in on AI. They kind of just let it happen. They were like, yeah, okay, with tax incentives, etc. And now it's just like subprime. You get to the point where, bailing out AIG is horrible. Not bailing out AIG is also horrible. So we don't know what to do.
I don't know.
By the way, we all know which way we're going.
I actually do think that this administration made an affirmative choice to go all in on AI. I mean, you remember the big announcement on the day after Inauguration Day saying, oh, we're going to, have all of this investment in AI. And that was, part of why some of these tech guys flipped to Trump is because, listen, the Biden administration wasn't doing a lot in terms of AI regulation, but they were doing a little bit. And there was a little bit more of like a mindset towards, all right, let's have some safety. Let's have some guardrails in here. Again, I'm not trying to bump them up because it was also not sufficient. But the Trump administration has basically said, all right, off to the races. We're in a race with China. You guys are in a race with each other. And everybody is just throwing billions and billions of dollars at this thing, hoping that they're going to be the one that achieves AGI fastest and achieves the market position fastest. So that is an affirmative decision that was made. I don't think it's the one that most of you all voted for. I don't think that was like featured heavily in the campaign trail. I don't think there was a lot of focus on that at debates. I don't think there's been any sort of like a national small d Democratic conversation about it. But there are a lot of elites here, and specifically these tech oligarchs who have decided that this is the path that they want to go on. And so, you've got their goal is to remake the social contract, to make you and your labor completely irrelevant, to free themselves from the burden of having to deal with annoying human workers and their needs to go to the bathroom or take a day off for their kid's birthday or school play or whatever. They want to free themselves from all of those constraints. And so you have that threat, which in many ways is here. And you also have the incredible financial concentration, which I don't know how you can look at this and not think it's a bubble at this point. And by the way, Mark Zuckerberg thinks it's a bubble. Jeff Bezos thinks it's a bubble. They've been talking about this openly. Now they have various cope around it. Zuckerberg says basically that bubbles happen and then there's still a lot of innovation that comes out of it. So still a net positive thing. Like that's the way that they're talking about it. But with the NVIDIA thing specifically, if the demand for these chips is really so high and so extraordinary, why do they need to round trip these funds? Why do they need to subsidize the purchase of their own chips? That alone should make you question some of the storytelling that is coming out of this industry. So I don't know. There are many different potential perils here, and very hard for me to see how we get out of this thing without some very ugly consequences.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put this next one, please, up on the screen. I thought it was really interesting, a summary of Andrej Karpathy, who is, he was previously the director of AI over at Tesla, and he now has appeared on a podcast. And this was a summary of some of the points that he makes. He says, quote, LLMs don't work yet. They don't have enough intelligence. They're not multimodal enough. 2, when you boot them up, they start from 0. They have no distillation phrase. There's no process where that happens, get analyzed, written back into weights. 3, when it's stored in their weights, it's only a hazy collection of the internet. Go to the next part, please, just so we can continue to read some of these. What you really see broadly from a lot of the points that they make is that they're too good at imitation. They're terrible at going off of the data. They have too much memory and not enough reasoning. They've recreated, quote, cortical tissue pattern learning in general, but still missing the rest of the brain. There's no hippocampus. There's no amygdala. There's no emotions. They memorize perfectly, but generalize poorly. Anything truly new, code that is never written before, ideas that have no template, they stumble. So even the promises of some of this are not really materializing yet, and they're being sold as some great, great innovation. That's why I thought that Sam Altman's announcement that ChatGPT will be porn, that was like the biggest signal to me. I'm like, AGI is not coming, guys. Like the real AGI, it's not happening. Really what it is they recreated the internet. ChatGPT started its new browser. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, where you can download. What do you think you do that for? It's like Google. Hoover up all the data, make sure that you replace it, and then what? You make sure you spend as much time on the goddamn platform as possible so we can sell you advertising, so we can have you addicted to pornography, and we can run your entire life from GCal to everything. It's just an ad-supported business. That's not the same thing that was sold to the public about we're gonna create, you know, a new brain that's gonna cure cancer. It's like, no, you just have porn, okay? I mean, that's exactly what happened with the original internet. So I'm feeling very bleak this morning. I do think the job replacement could come, the robot stuff, because that's about rote labor and automation. But the real promises of, oh, we're gonna do that, we're gonna create all these amazing new products, I don't see it. I don't see it on the horizon.
I hope it fails. Personally, I do. I hope it fails because, I mean, I'm very concerned. Listen, like Saagar said, even with where they've gotten now, we're already seeing job replacement. But it could be worse. It could be a lot worse. And so there's that aspect, there's the water and energy aspect, and then there's the potential like most dystopian scenarios of which, yeah, I am genuinely concerned about. And by the way, Elon, the guys who are involved in this stuff are concerned about. They've just decided like, well, maybe if I'm the one that develops it, I can do it in a safe way. And my competitors are doing it anyway, so it's not like me staying out of the race. And I'm thinking specifically of Elon Musk, who really had a lot of safety concerns to start with, and then realize like, well, I guess everybody else is doing it, so I'm just gonna get in there and make mine anti-woke, and I guess that'll fix everything. They are concerned about like the most dire scenarios as well. So I think the best case scenario is that they never achieve AGI, that it ends up just being sort of like a glorified Google search the way it is, and an ability for you to make your own personalized, customized porn or whatever, and that's where it stops. To me, that is the most hopeful possible scenario, and it's still not a great one.
See, I don't think it's hopeful because that just means AI centered at degenerate activity already on the internet and amplifying it and making it
I'm not
worse.
saying it's good, Saagar.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying
fair,
it's,
fair.
I
It's
don't
better
want
than
it,
the alternative.
yes,
I see what you're saying.
I don't want it to go further than it already has.
We have Andrew Yang standing by to weigh in, OG friend of the show. Let's get to it. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.